The grand chamber of the Galactic Council glittered like a living jewel, in orbit around the shining planet Verilion Prime. It was a massive structure of crystal and steel, built to host hundreds of alien races. Each race had a seat at the round table, glowing platforms floating in a circle, surrounded by shimmering energy fields for the first time in history. A human was among them. Ambassador Ethan Cole stood tall, though his dark uniform looked simple compared to the brilliant robes and metallic skins around him. He was 37 years old, calm-faced, and carried the quiet pride of someone who had seen both war and peace. Humanity was new to the stars. Barely 100 years had passed since Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel. Compared to the ancient empires around them, the Zereth dynasty, the Dravari Federation, the Thalcor Collective, humans were children, curious, restless, and small, and yet they had come far. Ethan was here to represent Earth in a council meeting that would decide trade rights for a rare energy crystal called Lunite, which powered many galactic technologies. Every race wanted it. The Zereth wanted it most. When Ethan stepped up to speak, many alien eyes turned toward him, some curious, some cold. His voice was calm and respectful. Members of the council, he began, Earth seeks peaceful trade and fair cooperation. We bring knowledge, science, and unity, not conflict. The translator field shimmered as his words echoed in dozens of alien tongues. For a moment, the chamber was quiet. Then came a soft laugh. It was Prince Kareth, heir to the Zereth throne, tall, elegant, and glowing faintly gold under the hall's light. His scaled blue skin and golden eyes gave him an almost divine appearance. The prince smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Humans, he said loudly, his voice smooth and sharp. The fragile species who nearly destroyed their own world now wishes to teach us about peace? A low murmur spread through the chamber. Some aliens looked amused. Others looked uncomfortable. Ethan stood still. Kareth stepped closer, his long coat sweeping the floor like a royal banner. Your kind crawled out of the dirt of your small planet, and now you stand before the galaxy pretending to be equal. He tilted his head slightly. Tell me, human, what could your primitive world possibly offer us? The insult hung in the air like a blade. Ethan's aides behind him stiffened. One, a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Lane, clenched her fists. Ambassador, she whispered, ready to respond, but Ethan raised one hand slightly. He didn't look angry. He didn't even frown. He simply looked at Kareth, calm, steady, and silent. Then, without saying a word, he turned around. The crowd gasped. Ethan walked off the glowing platform and down the long aisle toward the exit. His steps were quiet, measured, not hurried, not ashamed, just steady. No human words filled the silence. No angry speeches. No defense. Only the quiet sound of his boots against the glass floor. The door closed behind him for a moment. No one moved. Then whispers filled the hall. He walked away? Did the human surrender? Strange. I expected anger. Kareth smiled thinly. So easily broken, he said. Perhaps they truly are too soft for the stars. But not everyone laughed out across the chamber. A Dravari diplomat, an insectoid creature with shining green eyes, watched the exit door thoughtfully. No, she said softly. That one did not walk away in shame. He walked away with purpose, back on the Earth Embassy ship, Horizon Dawn, orbiting nearby. Ethan sat in the quiet of his cabin. He stared out the window, watching the swirling light of Verilion Prime below. His reflection in the glass looked calm, but his eyes were distant. Sarah entered without knocking. Sir, you should have said something. He insulted all of humanity in front of the entire council. Ethan didn't turn. And if I had argued back? He asked softly. Would that have changed anything? He made us look weak, she said. No, Ethan said, finally turning to face her. He made himself look arrogant. There's a difference, Sarah sighed. So what do we do now? We've lost the council's attention. The Zereth will win the Lunite deal for sure. Ethan smiled faintly. We wait, and we prepare. He stood and adjusted his jacket. Pride burns fast, Lieutenant, but truth lasts longer. The next day, the Galactic Council announced a universal challenge. a peaceful competition between races. Each species would present a new innovation that could help all civilizations. The winner would receive not only the Lunite rights, but also permanent trade privileges. It was a test of intelligence, endurance, and creativity. Kareth was confident. The Zirith were masters of technology and energy manipulation. They announced they would unveil a new plasma engine, one capable of traveling across galaxies in days. The crowd cheered. The Dravari planned to show their energy crystals that stored sunlight for centuries. The Thalcor promised living machines that could heal themselves. And the humans? When asked, Ethan simply said, "We'll present something small." The aliens laughed again. Small was what they expected from humans: small ships, small ideas, small dreams. But Ethan's team worked silently. Inside the Horizon Dawn, they labored day and night on their design. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. It was something humanity had quietly perfected on the moon colonies: a compact fusion reactor. Small enough to fit inside a room, powerful enough to power a city for a decade. Ethan didn't boast. He didn't promise victory. He only said one thing to his team before the presentation: "Let our actions speak." When the day of the challenge arrived, the council hall was alive with energy. Massive machines hummed. Bright lights flashed. Alien audiences filled the balconies. Kareth presented first. His new stellar flame engine roared to life with a blast of golden plasma. The crowd gasped as the entire hall shimmered from the energy output. "This," Kareth declared proudly, "is the future of travel." Thunderous applause followed. Ethan waited his turn quietly. When it came, he walked up to the platform and placed a small metallic box, no larger than a human suitcase, on the table. Kareth frowned. "That's it?" Ethan only nodded. "That's it." He pressed a button. The box hummed softly, then began to glow with a pale blue light. A small energy field spread around it. Instruments around the room flickered. The device was generating clean, powerful energy. Steady and smooth. No smoke. No heat. No waste. Just perfect power. "This," Ethan said simply, "is a self-sustaining fusion reactor. No pollution, no loss. It can power an entire station for 10 years with one start." The hall was silent. No one laughed this time. The energy sensors blinked. The data was clear. The human machine was more efficient than any plasma or crystal ever shown before. Kareth's confident smile faded slightly. As the tests continued, the alien engines overheated. The crystals began to crack. Only the human reactor kept running, calm, stable, unstoppable. And somewhere deep inside, Kareth felt something he hadn't felt in years. Respect. He said nothing, but his eyes followed the human ambassador, the man who had walked away without a word, yet somehow had spoken louder than any speech. Ethan returned to his ship that night. The stars shimmered outside the viewport like silent witnesses. Sarah approached him again, smiling for the first time in days. "You were right, sir." Silence really was stronger than anger. Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes," he said, "the best answer to pride is patience." Outside, the human reactor still glowed on the council station, a small, steady light that would soon change the galaxy forever. And far away, Prince Kareth stood at his palace window, staring into space, whispering to himself, "Perhaps the humans are not so small after all." The quiet hum of the Earth Embassy ship, Horizon Dawn, filled the control deck as the human crew gathered around a long table. The holographic display showed charts, numbers, and glowing alien symbols. But everyone's focus was on one thing: the next stage of the galactic challenge. The first day had ended, and Earth's small fusion reactor had surprised everyone. The alien media called it the Miracle Box. Many worlds had started to whisper new words: respect and curiosity. Ambassador Ethan Cole sat calmly at the head of the table, his uniform neat, his expression thoughtful. His team, though proud, still felt the pressure. Lieutenant Sarah Lane leaned forward. "Sir, the Zirith won't stay quiet for long. Prince Kareth doesn't like to lose. He'll find a way to outshine us in the next round." Ethan nodded. "He will try. And that's exactly why we must stay humble." Dr. Tomas Reed, the chief engineer, tapped the hologram. "Our reactor worked perfectly, sir, But if they raise the technical level tomorrow, we'll need to be ready. They'll test stability under stress. Ethan looked at the screen where a small blue light pulsed, a symbol of their fusion reactor. Still running perfectly on the council station. We'll be ready, he said. Sarah smiled faintly. Still, I can't believe we beat the Zereth. You know, back on Earth, they call them the gods of energy. Ethan gave a quiet chuckle. Every god was once a beginner. Every empire started small. He stood and looked out at the stars through the wide glass window. The galaxy shimmered with endless light, millions of civilizations, each proud of their own greatness. Yet humans were the newcomers, the late rivals to the cosmic table, and still, here they were. Meanwhile, on the Zereth flagship, Celestial Flame, Prince Kareth stood in his private chamber. His reflection glimmered off a wall of polished silver. Around him floated small glowing orbs that projected images of the challenge. The human reactor pulsed steadily in the center. Kareth's expression was cold. A toy, he muttered. A small machine made by a small race. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. Behind him, his advisor, General Vorin, bowed. Your Highness, the human device is not a toy. Our scans confirm it produces pure energy without loss. It is remarkable. Kareth's golden eyes narrowed. And you think we should admire them? Vorin hesitated. I think, my prince, we should understand them. The human walked away from your insult, and yet his people are now the talk of the council. That silence. It was powerful. Kareth turned sharply. Powerful. Silence is not power. Power is command, control, victory. He clenched his hand, and the floating orbs flickered from the force of his energy field. Humans are weak. They have no great armies, no ancient wisdom, no superior genetics. They are lucky, nothing more. Vorin bowed again. As you say, my prince. But deep down, even Kareth began to wonder. The next morning, the council hall was alive again. Hundreds of alien species gathered to see the second round. This one was called the Trial of Endurance. Each entry from the first day would be tested under extreme conditions. Pressure, heat, radiation, and continuous operation. The Zereth presented their upgraded plasma engine, glowing brighter than before. The Dravari adjusted their fragile energy crystals. And then came the small human box, quiet, simple, glowing soft blue. Some aliens smiled kindly. Some still doubted. The test began. The Zereth engine roared, filling the hall with golden light until it began to shake. A moment later, a warning light flashed red. Overload detected, said the judge drone. Stability loss, 17%, Kareth frowned. His engineers rushed to fix it, but the numbers kept dropping. Then the Dravari crystals began to crack under pressure. Tiny lines of light splitting their surfaces. And through it all, the human fusion reactor hummed softly, unchanged, unbothered, unbroken. Minutes passed. Then hours. Still, the little blue light pulsed calmly. The alien engineers gathered around it in disbelief. One Valcor scientist whispered, "It's like it has no limit." When the test ended, the scoreboard spoke for itself. Winner of round 2, Earth stability, 100%. The hall fell silent again. The same silence that had filled it when Ethan walked away. Kareth stared at the results, his face expressionless. Inside, something twisted, anger, confusion, and curiosity all mixed together. When the crowd began to whisper again, he stood up. His voice echoed across the hall. "The humans cheat," he declared. "That reactor must hide something unnatural." The council moderator, a tall being of silver light, looked at him calmly. "You are free to inspect it." Prince Kareth. Kareth's jaw tightened. Slowly, he walked to the center of the hall. His tall frame towered over the small device. He scanned it with his own energy senses, but found nothing. No hidden source. No trick. Just flawless design. Ethan stood nearby, watching silently. When Kareth looked up, their eyes met. For a brief second, neither spoke. The entire hall watched. Then Ethan said, simply, "It runs on trust." Kareth blinked. "Trust?" Ethan nodded. "Our people build it together. Hundreds of nations. No kings, no thrones. Just cooperation. That's what powers it." The prince didn't reply. But for the first time, He had no insult ready. Later that evening, as the council crowd left, Ethan and his team returned to their ship. Sarah was smiling brightly. "Sir, you saw their faces." Even the judges couldn't believe it. "We're leading the challenge now." Ethan smiled softly. "Yes, but don't let pride blind us. Tomorrow is the last round, the test of diplomacy. That one will matter most." Dr. Reed laughed. "Well, if science doesn't impress them, maybe your calm attitude will." Sarah added, honestly, "I think your silence did more damage to Kareth than any speech could." Ethan chuckled. Sometimes the best victory is quiet, on the celestial flame. Kareth stood alone at the viewing window, staring at the Earth ship in the distance. His reflection looked proud, but his thoughts were restless. He remembered the way the human had looked at him, calm, not angry, not afraid. He remembered the simple words, "It runs on trust." He had ruled planets, commanded armies, and seen entire worlds bow before his name. Yet now, a quiet man from a small planet had made him feel uncertain. Trust. He murmured to himself, "A strange power." General Vorn entered quietly. "Your Highness, the final challenge will begin tomorrow. The theme is unity." "Perhaps," Kareth cut him off, "perhaps we'll remind the council what true power looks like." But his voice didn't sound as sure as before. The next day arrived quickly. The council hall buzzed with excitement. The final round, the trial of harmony, would test which species could lead others into cooperation. It wasn't about machines now. It was about leadership, wisdom, and understanding. Each representative would be paired with other species at random to solve a shared crisis scenario. When the names were drawn, the hall fell silent again. Team 1, the Dravari and the Thalcor. Team 2, the Zereth, and the humans. The entire room whispered. The very pair that had started with insult and silence now had to work together. Kareth's golden eyes met Ethan's calm gaze from across the chamber. The prince smirked faintly, though not with the same arrogance as before. "Fate seems to enjoy irony," he said. Ethan smiled lightly. "Maybe it's giving us a chance." The challenge began. The massive dome of the Galactic Council arena shimmered with light as the final challenge began. This time, there were no machines or engines, only minds and hearts. It was called the Trial of Harmony, a test that measured not technology, but understanding. Each team had to solve a crisis simulation using logic, cooperation, and leadership. For the audience, it was entertainment. For the participants, it was pride and survival. And for Ethan Cole, it was another chance to show the strength of humanity, not with power, but with patience. An uneasy alliance of teams gathered inside transparent chambers floating above the council floor. Each chamber created a shared holographic world, a simulation that would react to every action. Inside one of them stood two figures, Ambassador Ethan Cole, calm and steady in his dark Earth uniform, and Prince Kareth of the Zereth, tall, glowing faintly with gold energy, eyes sharp and proud. When the simulation began, they found themselves standing on the holographic surface of a burning alien planet. The air shimmered red, an explosion sounded in the distance. A city lay in ruins ahead, its people, illusions created by the system, calling for help. A voice echoed from the ceiling. "Your mission, save the civilians and stabilize the planet's energy core. Both of you must work together. The task cannot be completed alone." Kareth crossed his arms. "Typical. Another lesson about cooperation," he muttered. Ethan looked at him quietly. "Then let's cooperate." Kareth smirked. "Do not command me, human. I am no soldier in your small army," Ethan sighed. "And I'm not your servant, your highness. But we can still work side by side." For a moment, neither moved. The heat of the holographic fire reflected in their eyes. One calm blue, one burning gold. Then Ethan turned and walked toward the fallen structures, scanning for survivors. Kareth watched him go, surprised by the human's lack of argument. Most beings who stood before him tried to impress or challenge him. But Ethan simply worked. To different paths. Ethan's scanner beeped. "There are trapped life signs under this beam," he said, pointing. Kareth frowned. "Then move aside." He raised one hand, and golden energy crackled from his fingertips. The massive steel beam lifted and melted into air, freeing two injured alien figures. Ethan quickly treated their wounds with a small medkit. "Good work," he said simply. Kareth blinked. "You are not surprised? I've seen many kinds of strength," Ethan replied. "Some lift beams, some lift hope." Kareth was silent for a moment, watching as Ethan comforted the simulated civilians. "Humans are strange," he said finally. "You use weakness as strength." Ethan smiled faintly. "We just use what we have." The mission continued. Together, they crossed through collapsing streets and lava vents, repairing systems and guiding survivors. At first, Kareth worked ahead, destroying obstacles with his powers. Ethan followed, fixing, guiding, and planning. But soon, the simulation became harder. A massive quake shook the ground. The planet's core, a glowing orb of unstable energy, appeared before them. The system voice spoke again, warning, "Core collapse imminent. 2 control terminals detected. Must be activated simultaneously." Ethan ran to the first terminal. "I'll take this side." Kareth flew to the other, his cape flaring behind him. "Ready? On my mark," Ethan shouted. 3, 2, 1. Both pressed their hands to the terminals. Energy surged through the simulation. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, the planet stabilized. Then suddenly, the ground exploded. A massive beam of red energy shot upward, splitting the simulation sky. The voice echoed again, "Unexpected failure. System corruption. Both participants must stabilize the core manually." Kareth's eyes widened. "It's impossible. The core will overload." Ethan didn't move. "Nothing's impossible. Just hard." He sprinted toward the energy sphere glowing in the center of the crater. The heat was unreal, even simulated. It felt alive. Kareth hesitated for a second, then followed. Trust in action. The core pulsed violently. Ethan reached it first and placed a stabilizer module against its surface. "I need you to channel your energy into this ring," he shouted over the roar. Kareth narrowed his eyes. "You would command a prince?" Ethan looked at him steadily. "I'm asking for help, not control." That line, simple and honest, cut through Kareth's pride like light through fog. He raised his hands, golden power glowing brighter than ever, and poured his energy into the ring. The fusion of human technology and Zereth energy began to merge. The holographic world shook. The simulation core brightened, then suddenly went dark. When the light cleared, the burning planet was gone. In its place stood a quiet, rebuilt city under a calm blue sky. The voice of the council filled the air. Simulation completed. Mission success, 100%. Team Earth-Zereth has achieved full synchronization. Respect earned. The chamber walls turned transparent again, showing the audience outside. The entire council had risen from their seats. The silence lasted only a moment before applause and light filled the hall. Ethan stood straight, wiping sweat from his forehead. Kareth looked around, confused. "They cheer for US?" he asked. Ethan nodded. "For teamwork." Kareth looked at him strangely. "You did not try to outshine me. You could have taken the victory for your species." Ethan smiled slightly. "You helped save the city. We both did. Cooperation doesn't need a winner or loser." Kareth said nothing for a while. Then, almost softly, he spoke. "When I insulted you before, I believed humans had no pride. I see now. You hide it in silence." Ethan looked thoughtful. "Silence isn't pride. It's patience. It lets actions speak for us." The prince studied him for a long moment, then bowed slightly, not deeply, but enough for everyone to see. The crowd gasped. The royal heir of Zereth had bowed to a human. "Perhaps," Kareth said. "We both had lessons to learn." A quiet celebration later that night. On the horizon dawned. The crew gathered in the observation room. The stars outside glittered like distant diamonds. Sarah and Dr. Reed laughed as they watched the news broadcast appear on the holographic screens. Humans and Zereth win together. Prince and human ambassador save simulation world. Sarah grinned. "You actually made him work with you, sir." "That's a first in history." Ethan smiled. "He worked with himself. I just gave him space to try." Dr. Reed lifted a mug. "To patience and quiet victories." They laughed and cheered lightly. For the first time, humanity wasn't seen as small or weak, but as steady, wise, and united. The prince reflects in the celestial flame. Kareth sat alone in his royal chamber. The stars reflected off his golden eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt something unfamiliar, respect for someone weaker than himself. He replayed the memory of Ethan's words. I'm asking for help, not control. Power, he realized, was not always domination. Sometimes it was understanding. His aide, General Vorin, entered quietly. Your Highness, the council is impressed. They speak of peace between our peoples. Kareth nodded slowly. Perhaps peace is stronger than conquest. He looked out the window again, his voice thoughtful. That human, he taught me more than any war ever did. The beginning of something great. Earth. Next day, the Galactic Council gathered to announce the overall results of the challenge. Lights flashed across the chamber, and all eyes turned to the center stage where the moderator stood. The winner of the Galactic Innovation Challenge, by unanimous decision, is Team Earth-Zereth. Cheers erupted across the hall. The two flags, the Earth emblem and the Zereth symbol, appeared side by side above the stage. Ethan and Kareth stood together. The prince turned toward him and said quietly, perhaps your silence was never weakness. Perhaps it was wisdom. Ethan smiled. And perhaps your strength was never pride, just waiting to find purpose. The crowd continued to cheer as the two leaders shook hands before the galaxy. For the first time, humanity wasn't seen as the youngest species of the stars. They were seen as the example. And Prince Kareth, once proud and cold, began to see what true royalty meant, not ruling others, but standing beside them. The celebration of the Galactic Innovation Challenge still echoed across the stars. News of Earth's fusion reactor and the successful collaboration with Prince Kareth of the Zereth spread like starlight. Aliens everywhere whispered about the humans, the small, silent species who had achieved what older civilizations could not. Ethan Cole sat aboard the Horizon Dawn, reviewing the next council agenda. Normally, these meetings were procedural, trade discussions, planetary disputes, routine diplomacy. But today, something unusual appeared on the message board. Emergency alert, planet Solora core instability. Sarah Lane read aloud, her voice tense. Sir, the Solora core is a massive energy source in the core systems. If it collapses, millions could be affected. Trade hubs, cities, even some inhabited moons. Ethan's jaw tightened. How soon? Estimates say the core could destabilize in less than 24 hours, Sarah replied. Ethan stood and straightened his uniform. Then we don't waste time. Prepare the ship. We're leaving immediately. A reluctant ally across the galaxy, on the celestial flame. Prince Kareth received the same alert. His golden eyes narrowed. Solora was in Zereth space, part of their empire. Yet, despite his pride, he knew the danger was real. Vorin, his trusted advisor, looked at him. Your Highness, you cannot handle this alone. Shall we request aid? Kareth's gaze hardened. Only one other being could understand the magnitude of this problem. Call the human. Ethan arrived in orbit over Solora, his ship gliding through space like a dark arrow. Kareth's flagship approached, massive and golden, its energy shields shimmering. The two ships docked on the orbital platform above Solora. The chamber was tense. This was no simulation. The planet's energy core was failing, and the lives of millions hung in the balance. Kareth stepped forward, voice firm but quieter than usual. Human, he said, we work together. No insults, no pride. Lives are at stake. Ethan nodded. Agreed. Let's save the planet first. Words can wait. The two of them entered the planetary command chamber, a vast room filled with holographic projections of Solora. Red lines of instability flashed across the core, indicating heat surges, energy leaks, and dangerous fluctuations. This is worse than any simulation, Ethan said. Examining the readings, cost single quotes Ray-Th grunted. Nothing a Zereth energy field cannot fix. Ethan shook his head. It's not just energy, it's balance. Too much power in one area, and the planet will fracture. Kareth's pride flared. But he didn't interrupt. He studied the human quietly, as if testing his resolve. The planet then quickly outlined his approach. We need a dual stabilization system. My reactor can absorb excess energy temporarily, but it needs a constant feedback loop to prevent overload. That's where you come in. Your energy field can channel the fluctuations into the reactor safely. Kareth crossed his arms. Simple enough. But if you fail, human, the core could explode. I'm counting on your help, Ethan said calmly. The prince studied him for a moment, then nodded. And I'm counting on your calculations to keep it from frying my ship. They worked side by side, preparing the fusion stabilizer. Ethan's hands moved deftly over his console, inputting precise codes. KRTH generated a golden energy lattice around the unstable core, channeling the volatile energy into the human reactor module. For hours, they worked in near silence. Sweat, energy, and tension filled the room. Outside the observation panels, Solora's cities lit up and dimmed as energy surged across the planet. The danger was real. Every wrong step could cause catastrophe. The crisis peaked suddenly. A massive surge erupted. A red-hot spike of energy shot from the core, throwing both of them across the chamber. Alarms blared. Ethan's console flashed warnings. Overload imminent. Reactor instability 87%. Kareth landed on his feet, scanning the situation. Human, can your device handle this? Yes, Ethan said through gritted teeth. If we synchronized perfectly. They had less than 30 seconds. Ethan's fingers flew across the console, stabilizing the input lines. Kareth raised his arms, concentrating all his energy into the field. Sparks danced around them as the two sources merged, human technology and Zereth power combined. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the core's red glow faded. The surges decreased. The alarms stopped. The core began to stabilize. Outside, Solora's cities stopped flickering. The lights shone steadily. The danger had passed. Ethan leaned against the console, breathing hard. Kareth let out a long exhale. Impressive, he said softly. You did well, too, Ethan replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Kareth studied him, the pride in his eyes now mixed with genuine respect. You do not seek glory, the prince said. Only purpose, Ethan nodded. And you do not command blindly. You follow reason when it counts. A new understanding after the crisis. The humans and Zereth worked together to implement a permanent stabilization system. Solora would no longer be at risk. The planet's leaders expressed gratitude, offering rewards and trade privileges. Ethan declined the accolades. The planet's safety is reward enough. Kareth, however, surprised his aides by staying close to the human. I underestimated your kind, he admitted quietly. Your species is small in number, but vast in will. You act not for pride, but for purpose. That is strength I have never known. Ethan smiled faintly. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is patience. The prince nodded slowly. Perhaps that is why the council now takes humanity seriously, for the first time. Kareth truly saw what the human had done, not just surviving insult, but winning respect through calm, determination, and clever thinking. The quiet victory back aboard the Horizon Dawn. Sarah and Dr. Reed celebrated quietly. We did it, sir, Sarah said, relief in her voice. Solora is safe. Millions of lives saved. Ethan nodded. Yes, but the real lesson is in teamwork. Cooperation is more powerful than pride, more lasting than anger. Dr. Reed smiled. And we proved humans are not to be underestimated. Ethan leaned against the viewport, looking at the stars. We have much to learn and much to teach. Silence, patience, and action can speak louder than words. Meanwhile, Kareth returned to his flagship, the Celestial Flame, his thoughts unusually quiet. He had been humbled and yet inspired. He realized that human patience and ingenuity could match, and sometimes surpass, even Zereth power. He looked at the stars, whispering to himself, the human walks quietly, yet moves mountains. Perhaps my insult was the last mistake I will ever make against them. A promise for the future as Solora mission changed perceptions across the galaxy. Reports of the human-Zereth teamwork spread quickly, inspiring other species to reconsider the humans. Once dismissed as a small, fragile race, they were now seen as steadfast, wise, and capable of leadership, Ethan and Kareth, once divided by insult and pride, now stood side by side, not as rivals, but as allies. Kareth extended a hand, not in dominance, but in respect. Ethan shook it firmly. "Perhaps," Ethan said, "the galaxy will be safer when we work together." Kareth nodded. "And perhaps," he said with a rare smile, "humans are stronger than I ever imagined." Outside the ships, the stars sparkled quietly. The galaxy had witnessed a small species rise not through conquest, but through wisdom, patience, and courage. And humanity's place among the stars was no longer in question. Months had passed since the events on Silura. The galaxy still buzzed with stories of the human-Zerth teamwork. Diplomats, engineers, and traders from dozens of civilizations whispered the same words: the humans are different. The humans are capable. Ethan Cole stood aboard the Horizon Dawn, staring out at the infinite stars. The calm hum of the ship was comforting. For the first time, humanity wasn't merely a newcomer in the galaxy. They were a presence others could trust, a force that combined intellect with patience. Sarah Lane approached, holding a holo message from the Galactic Council. "Sir, you've been invited to the inaugural session of the Intergalactic Peace Grid Summit. Representatives from every major civilization will be present. They want to hear from humans." Ethan nodded. "Prepare the speech," he said quietly. "But remember, words are not always needed. Our actions will speak too." The summit begins. Summit Hall on Verilion Prime was larger and brighter than any council chamber Ethan had ever seen. Crystals floated in the air, reflecting prismatic light across the faces of thousands of alien representatives. At the center stood Prince Kareth, tall and elegant, his golden eyes shining with quiet pride. He was no longer the arrogant figure who had insulted humanity months ago. Instead, he was a leader transformed by experience, tempered by cooperation and humility. Ethan approached the central podium alongside Kareth. The audience quieted instantly. Kareth spoke first. "Esteemed delegates, months ago, humans were dismissed as fragile, inexperienced, and insignificant. Today, they stand beside us, having saved millions of lives, stabilized entire worlds, and taught us the true meaning of patience and purpose." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Some aliens were astonished. Others nodded in respect. Ethan stepped forward. His voice was calm, clear, and deliberate. "Humans did not come to the stars seeking glory. We came to learn, to share, and to act with purpose. Strength is not only measured in power, but in wisdom, restraint, and the willingness to help others without expectation." The hall was silent for a moment. The weight of his words settled over every being present, and sometimes he added softly, "Walking away from anger is louder than any speech." A demonstration of unity was a final part of the summit. The council requested a demonstration. Ethan and Kareth unveiled a new project, the Intergalactic Peace Grid, a network of fusion-powered energy hubs connecting dozens of planets. The hubs provided clean energy, ensured planetary safety, and created rapid communication channels for emergencies. Every species could access the system. No one could dominate it. It belonged to all. The council moderator hovered above, her light form glimmering. "This is unprecedented. A single system benefiting so many civilizations simultaneously. And humans designed it?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, with the help of many allies. But it was humanity's approach, patience, cooperation, and careful planning that made it possible." Kareth stood beside him, golden energy faintly glowing as he added, "And it is not the design alone that matters. It is the trust and unity that sustain it." Lessons across the galaxy. News of the Peace Grid spread quickly. Worlds that had been suspicious of humans now requested advisors, engineers, and diplomats. Humans became known not only as explorers, but as builders of peace and stability. Even Prince Kareth's own people, long proud and secretive, began to change. They admired the human ability to act decisively without arrogance. Kareth himself often reflected on the lessons he had learned. Strength is quiet. Patience is powerful. Purpose outweighs pride. Ethan and Kareth frequently consulted on new crises, always together. Their teamwork became an example cited across the galaxy. not for conquest or dominance, but for cooperation, trust, and intelligence. A personal moment late one evening aboard the Horizon Dawn. Ethan walked along the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before him, and he felt a deep sense of calm. Kareth joined him silently. "You have changed the galaxy, human," he said softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "We all changed it together. I only walked the path I knew." The prince nodded. "And yet, your choice to remain silent when insulted." That was the moment the galaxy began to listen. Ethan glanced at him. "Sometimes, the best victories are quiet, and sometimes, the best actions are the ones that leave a lasting legacy without shouting." Kareth's expression softened. "I once thought pride made a leader strong. Now I see. Restraint and wisdom are stronger." For a long moment, they stood in silence. Two leaders from different worlds, bound by shared experience and respect. A galaxy inspirements turned into years. Humans continued to demonstrate their value not through war or dominance, but through ingenuity, collaboration, and courage. Their technology spread peacefully. Their diplomats helped mediate conflicts, and their calm resolve inspired hope across countless worlds. Even young Xerath children learned the story of Ambassador Ethan Cole, a human who walked away from insult and later saved millions with his intellect and patience. Kareth often retold the story, emphasizing the lessons learned. Strength is in action, not words. Respect is earned through deeds. Patience can change the course of history. The galaxy no longer saw humans as fragile newcomers. They were pioneers, leaders, and examples of what a species could achieve through purpose and perseverance. The final message during a ceremony for the full activation of the intergalactic peace grid. Ethan stood at the podium one last time, addressing delegates from every civilization. "This system is more than technology," he said. "It is a reminder of what we can accomplish when we put aside pride, insult, and fear. Every species represented here has strength. Every species has wisdom. And together, we can create a galaxy of peace, growth, and shared purpose." The delegates erupted in applause. Light beams shimmered across the hall, and holographic stars filled the dome. Reflecting the unity of civilizations, Kareth looked at Ethan and whispered, "You have taught me much, human, and perhaps the galaxy has learned more than even we realize." Ethan smiled. "Sometimes, the quietest voice carries the loudest message." A new era as the summit concluded. Ships returned to their home planets, carrying knowledge, energy, and inspiration. Humanity had proven itself, not by fighting or boasting, but through action, wisdom, and quiet strength. The stars above gleamed brighter than ever, reflecting the potential of cooperation across countless worlds. And somewhere, among the glowing lights of Viridian Prime, Prince Kareth and Ambassador Ethan Cole shared a look of mutual respect, a silent promise to continue building a galaxy where strength came not from domination, but from purpose. And in the hearts of humans everywhere, there was a quiet pride. They had walked among the stars, faced insult and doubt, and proved that humanity was worthy, capable, and extraordinary. The galaxy would never forget it.